Are the Minnesota Vikings the best team in the National Football League? You can honestly say it and not get laughed at. It feels real. It feels like it's actually a discussion point. Who would have thought that we'd be here at this point going into week 4 against the Green Bay Packers? Not only is it Green Bay hate week, but we get to talk about the Minnesota Vikings being the best team in the National Football League. So we're going to break it all down and then some here on a very fun episode of the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Monday night. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always. Who knows where he'll be in a second? Oh, there he is. He will be in the top left corner. He is producer Dave. And as you saw from that graphic, Ecamm decided to mess with us today. But don't worry, we are back and we are ready to rock and roll. And Dave, we have a great topic tonight because we get to talk about the Vikings potentially being the best team in the National Football League. It's not an absurd conversation. Who would have thought that we would be here? Maybe the most diehard of fans wanted to talk themselves into believing it, but nobody really believed that this was a possibility. It was, and we even talked about over the summer, a 100th percentile outcome is what we're seeing right now. Maybe 99th. Maybe there's still more that we can tap into with Jordan Addison and TJ Hockenson. But this is like a peak outcome. It's pretty incredible to watch.
I agree 100%. Now, it's only been 3 games, but I challenge all that are watching. And we got Chris that's in there, Delton's in there, Daniel's here, Vocal Vike, which happens to be Mr. Raps here, David Rinaldi, yo, or you're. We've got Digits in here, Raymond, Peter. Who else am I missing? Chris, Nick, welcome to the show. And also Justin just popped in. Welcome, Justin. Question is, if the Vikings are not the best, who is and why? And how many teams are there above your Minnesota Vikings after 3 weeks?
That's a great question. Based on kind of just initial thoughts, I think the only one you can really make an argument for is the Kansas City Chiefs. And now, look, the Chiefs haven't exactly won easily. They have had to face 3 very tough opponents, 2 of which they got at home. But the Ravens and Bengals have historically, with Patrick Mahomes under center, have given the Chiefs a lot of struggles, especially in the regular season. Joe Burrow has already won 3 games against Patrick Mahomes. That's more than I think every team in the AFC West has over them, or equal to as many. Like, that's how successful we're talking about this team having been. And Odie is whining, which is very weird. He loves doing a show with Dad, but I might have to go let him outside here in a minute. We'll see. But it's just one of those things. It's the Chiefs may not be playing really well, but they're winning games, and they're not fluke wins. I think that's really important. And when we think about the success of the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to shift back to the Vikings here in a minute, don't worry, because I think having this part of the conversation is important to the rest of the show. The thing with the Chiefs is they're so good defensively with Steve Spagnuolo running the show. And they do a great job of putting all these pieces in place and being successful in multiple facets. And in order to be a great team, you can't just have your offense dominating. You have to have a defensive component, and they have a really good defense. And the offense is still trying to get its bearings together with this offensive line and Patrick Mahomes kind of adapting to his new weapons. Because, look, Travis Kelce isn't what he was. He's still a very good football player, but he's 35 years old, and teams are doubling him, and it's a little bit harder for them to be able to do some of these things than it was 3 years ago. So those things matter. And especially when it comes early in the season, it's really hard to overreact based on week one. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's easy. Everybody does it. But you can't overreact based on week one because so few of these teams actually play their guys in the preseason. So the fact that the Vikings came out 20-6, it's like, all right, great start. And knocked off the rust, and you won in convincing fashion. Now can you do it against a really good team? So they did it. Even though the score was only 23-17, the Vikings won that game relatively convincingly. It's like, okay, that's great to see. But I want to establish a trend before I really commit to this team, which, you know what, is fair. Was this game an aberration? Was this game against the 49ers a fluke? Because I think you can make that argument that, hey, you have one great game and then you go out the next week and stink. It's more of a fluke. The Vikings beat the 49ers last year in US Bank Stadium, Monday Night Football, huge upset. Then they went out the next week. I think next week was Green Bay, Dave. They beat the Packers, but they lost Cousins. And then after that, the season was kind of wonky. So it was kind of, I'd say it's a half fluke that the Vikings ended up getting that win just because of how everything transpired last year. But then they went out against the Houston Texans, and they didn't just win. They beat the ever-living shit out of the Texans. They beat them on offense.
Which
they beat
is
them
surprising.
on defense. They beat them on special teams. And this isn't a team that's kind of come out of nowhere. I thought that in my article, I like to do bold predictions. And I said last year, the Texans would win at least 7 games and fight for a wild card spot. Well, they won the division. And they're a very well-coached team. DeMeco Ryans is very respected by pretty much everybody that matters. Bobby Slowick is an up-and-comer as an offensive play caller. They have a lot of interesting pieces on both sides of the football. And you have a franchise quarterback in C.J. Stroud. So being able to do that against a team that is that well-coached, has good schemes on both sides, and you beat the piss out of them, that says something. That is a real statement win by the Minnesota Vikings. And it's why we're having the conversation. Are they really the best team in the National Football League? Because I think you can make the argument that they are. But you have to take out the preseason narratives, and it's very hard for a lot of analysts to do. Hey, you know what? Myself included. You put all this study time and all this research to get all this information like, hey, this is what I think this team is going to be. Having a 3-game sample size is still relatively small, and you don't necessarily want to give all that up. But you have to start putting some of those narratives aside at this point because the Vikings aren't just winning. They're winning convincingly. What was that stat? I think it's like expected win-losses, where even if you win a game, like I think the Vikings expected win-loss, it was like 10.3 wins back in 2022 when it was kind of a fluky season. Like, they probably should have lost 3 more games that year, but they didn't because they pulled it out. And you know what? There's something to being situational masters. The Vikings preach it day in and day out. But even if you're situational masters, you should probably find a way to win games more convincingly because it becomes harder to predict, and you have to rely on things that are more out of your control, like luck. Luck doesn't exist, but in the course of talking about NFL games, there's a way to measure luck. And I can't remember who does it, but it's looking at, hey, how many tip balls get intercepted? How many field goals does your opponent make? Like that kind of stuff. How many fumbles that you have get recovered by the opposing team? Stuff that is high variance. Stuff that you can say, hey, you know what? That's kind of lucky that, hey, the Vikings haven't had a 50-plus yard field goal made against them, like theoretically. But last year, they had 10 of them made against them. Well, that's a little fluky. And because it's a little fluky, you can kind of classify that as a little bit of luck because it's way over the average. Well, that's going to regress at some point. So how do you kind of enact that? How do you kind of parse that all together? And I think that is where you can kind of understand, hey, how good is this team versus how lucky are they? But the Vikings aren't even leaving doubt. They beat the Giants by 22. That 6-point win over the Niners was not a 6-point game. It was a domination. And then they dominated the Texans even more with a 27-point win. So they're not even relying on some of those lucky factors, Dave. they are taking it to them and making it easy. Now, I'm going to take a quick break because I have Odie, and I think he's hurting. So I'm gonna go let him outside. But
Okay.
Dave,
but there is a bit of luck in football. That football is not round. It is shaped as a football, and it bounces funny, and that induces a bit of luck into the game. And then you have weather, and you have conditions, be it grass, turf, whatever. All that affects the play, and there is a bit of luck. There's fumbles on the 1-yard line by Aaron Jones 2 weeks ago, or that San Francisco game would have been a blowout. It's certain things like that do play into football, and yes, I know there is a stat for that. Arif Hassan, who's great. Well, if you want to get into stat geek stuff, he's found where that is and uses that, and I suggest subscribing to Wide Left if you like that sort of stuff. He is very, very good at analyzing that stuff. But so far, why I'm thinking the Vikings are so good this year, to this point, is the chemistry and how they're playing, how they're being schemed, whether it be Flow on the defensive side or KOC on the offensive side. They're doing absolutely fantastic at moving the ball. Now, we sort of thought, oh, no, are we going to have more third-quarter lulls? Well, we had a little one, but then it picked right back up. We aren't having them like we did last season, and it makes it interesting to see this team go. There was a quote today that I sent the lovely and beautiful Miss Mary this morning that was made from Harry the Hitman Smith. If I can bring it up real quick without it going stupid. No, it wants to go stupid. All right, thank you. But
is that your way of talking about the Green Bay Packers now, Dave?
No, that's my way of talking about Facebook. Facebook's been a pain in my butt all day this morning. But Harry was talking to Jets on the sideline, and I'll paraphrase, and he goes, there are very few seasons that are special. And he goes, we've got something really, really good here. And he was telling Jets that. And you need to pay attention because they don't come that often. And hopefully this stays this special across all 17 games and into the playoffs. So that's why I'm thinking, yeah, a lot of the guys here in the chat have said, oh, there's still room for improvement. Oh, yes, there is, by far. Whether it be T-Bass or whether it be Delton, there's tons of things that need to be improved on. Interior blocking, especially from Bradbury and Ingram. Oh, my God, I want that to get so much better. There's other things as well that could be tightened up, and we want to get better. We're only 3 games in. And normally the first part of the season is everybody feeling themselves out and getting into basic game shape, if you want to call it that, where they're used to playing a full four-quarter game. And it's usually after that first 4 games, you start to have the identity of knowing this team is good at this, and this team is good at that. And this team, Vegas gets a lot closer on who's going to win and who's not going to win because we have more information on how the teams are composed. Well, it turns out your Minnesota Vikings are already sort of at that position with still room to grow. And they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and I love that fact because I do believe there's still going to be more growth, and they're going to get better. Yes, we have a test this weekend. It's Packers week. We're going up to Lambeau Field and hopefully destroy them, no matter which quarterback is playing. And that is a test. Can you take on another good team on their field? Because the New York Giants, everybody's saying, it's just the New York Giants. Well, let's take on the Green Bay Packers on the grass in Lambeau, and then we'll find out. Scottish Bear says, holy shit, Dave, the Vikings are good, better than I ever thought. Yes, Scottish Bear, we're pretty good. It's going to be a fun division this year.
This Vikings team is really good, and I want to thank the 100 people who are already watching this. And please share with your friends. We're gonna have some real fun discussions, and I think we should start with some of the basics, some of the intricate stats of what really sets them apart. We're not going to go like super deep diving analytics. I think we don't have enough of a sample size to really utilize some of those and really make a hardcore argument. And even with some of the baseline stuff, I think the sample size is small enough where you could argue that, hey, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be kind of using those. But at the end of the day, they are what they are. And I think these two things are interesting to kind of keep a trend line. The Minnesota Vikings offense is second, Dave. Second in points scored with 85 points. Third place is Arizona at 82. And first place is the New Orleans Saints at 103. But they only put up 12 last week. So they had 91 through 2 games, only 12 last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. They are also number 2 in scoring defense, having allowed 30 points, where the Pittsburgh Steelers have allowed just 25, a whopping 8.3 points per game. When you're top 2 in both of those metrics at any point in the season other than week 1, that tells you something. Now that we're 3 weeks in, it's a little bit of a trend. I want to see more. I want to understand, hey, is this going to continue to happen? Is this going to continue to be real? Or are we looking at something that is unsustainable? I really don't know, Dave, but I feel really, really good about it.
Caitlin must be home. Wait.
Nope, she's not home.
But I know. Whining?
Yeah, I don't understand. He doesn't ever whine. He loves doing shows, but I think he might have some diarrhea issues or something. That's too much information. But I'll be back one more time. I apologize. But Odie comes before everything other than my wife. So
T-Bass says, screw analytics. I know a good team when I see one. Analytics are what we got a seat in booth. Yeah, well, yeah. Analytics makes mistakes too. But it's nice when the analytics are backing up what you see with your eyeball. That I do like. JDT, 5 interceptions and 16 sacks through 3 weeks. Not bad. No, it's not. And your Minnesota Vikings defense leads the league in sack totals. And they've gotten at least 5 in each of the first 3 games. And that hasn't been done in like 20 years or whatever it is. It is, there is something sort of special happening right now. Like Anthony Hitman Smith said, or Harrison Hitman Smith, pardon me, Harry. And we're here for it. I can't wait. Scottish Bear says it's coaching of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores are the best duo in the league. And he said that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they are the best. And they are proving it. Scottish Bear, they are proving it. They are doing so well. And you got to love that. Mary says, ESPN starts out this morning. She turned it on, and they got Cowboys, Pittsburgh, and she didn't remember the other one. I believe it was KC. And she was like, where's the Vikings? Well, there's plenty of Vikings content elsewhere this morning, so that wasn't a big deal, but that's typical because it's money generating for ESPN. Reign of West says this team will just get better. Addison and Hockenson with Speedy performing the way he has been. And Jets, this offense will be terrifying. Let's hope so. I do believe that as well. Hopefully we'll see Addison this week. Coach said today he's day-to-day, and then we should hopefully see TJ Hockenson after the Jets game, after the bye week, and we'll find out then. We also have Jordan Addison's first court appearance right after the Monday after the Jets game, so that should be interesting as well. But, yes, I agree. You add those two, one of the best pass-catching tight ends and one of the best wide receiver twos in the league, along with Jets. Oh, this offense is going to be something to watch. And throw Speedy as wide receiver 3. It's going to be fun as long as Mr. Sam Darnold, who is on his own record pace, stays healthy. And we had a big scare this weekend over that, and came out this morning that the MRIs were done and everything was checked, and it's just a knee bruise and no damage. And that was good.
Yeah. I didn't think that there was anything from that. I also found it interesting, Danielle Hunter got booed for that play, and Hunter went up to Brian O'Neill on the field or after the game and said, "Hey, I got blocked into him. I was not trying to go low. I was not trying to hit him low. I got blocked right into him." And O'Neill defended him, was like, "Danielle's not dirty. He's not going to try and do that." And didn't even look dirty. So a little different. I mean, it kind of is what it is. Chuck with the correct take that the hoodie is elite. Yes, because it is Busch Light. Busch Light is the beer of the gods. Please sponsor us, Busch Light. We would love you forever. Yeah, hey, I would love to drop a shot of Knob Creek 7-year rye into my Busch Light and make a Boilermaker. So I know you talked about while I was dealing with Odie, he did have to use the bathroom again. So why he didn't just do both at once, I don't know. But that's a Frenchie for you. Adopt rescue Frenchies. They're the best dogs. I know the idea of bringing in Jordan Addison and TJ Hockenson is going to make this offense a lot better. It's going to make it a lot more dynamic. I'm really intrigued by that because this offense is already firing on all cylinders. And I actually broke down a play for A to Z Sports, and I released that article about an hour ago. The touchdown to Aaron Jones is a very simple concept that everybody uses. It's mesh rail. Mesh, you have guys on opposite sides running drag routes, and the idea is they cross each other to create traffic. Then you have a guy running a spot route at the top of the mesh. So then he stops right there. And the idea is to create confusion. Theoretically, you're going to get somebody open. All right. Then at that point, on one side, you have like a clear out route, an out route, a post, a go. And the other side, you run a rail. And Jefferson was the rail route. But the rail route, Dave, starts from the backfield. And because it starts from the backfield, that's really, really impactful. It's important that it starts from the backfield. Oh my gosh, Odie needs to go outside again. I don't understand.
I don't know either. I want to answer T-Bass's question. T-Bass said, which jersey should he wear over in London? Whether it should be Carter, Randall, or Paul Krause. Vikings.
Randall.
Old-time Vikings fans would appreciate Paul Krause. I think more Brits would probably recognize Carter, and you'll get more interaction that way. But that's just Dave's opinion. I haven't been in England in a couple decades, so I couldn't tell you. But that's my 2 cents if you wanted it, T-Bass. I know other people have joined in. But if you're going to a game here, Krause. Especially the Legends game yesterday. That was awesome. Love those uniforms from yesterday. Wish we could wear more.
They're arguably the best uniforms in all of sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we're a little biased, and we probably should have an opinion like that, but they're like top 5, top 10 uniforms in sports. They're so good. They're traditional. They're clean. They're modern. Everything about them is just perfect. Like, yellow and purple just go so well together. It's honestly great. I love it. And now they're 1 and 2 in those uniforms, which I think is really interesting.
It's better than the what was it? The primetime Color Rush.
Yeah. Oh, Color Rush.
Our record wasn't as good when we wore those. We won some games, but we didn't win most of them.
I think the last game that we wore the Color Rush jerseys was Thanksgiving night against the Patriots, and we won that game. So I never would have been able to live it down if we lost to Mac Jones playing quarterback. Mac Jones. But is what it is. I think the idea of adding more to this offense is really intriguing because of some of those factors. And that route I talked about, the rail route. So I kind of stopped talking while Odie was whining to leave the office again, which good Lord knows what he's going to be doing in the basement or the main level. Hopefully nothing bad. But the idea of the rail route is it's just supposed to also clear out. So if it pops open and the defender stays on the drag route, you have a rail route wide open. And the mesh in the middle of the field, like think about 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, just straight in the middle. That area is supposed to be congested. And oftentimes you're going to have a linebacker on the running back. And if you have a linebacker on the running back, well, they may not be able to get out to the rail route. And then you have an easy completion. Here, the Vikings did a quick snap. And they have Jefferson on the rail. And what they ended up doing, oh, hi, Odie. Odie brought a ball. It'll squeak, so have fun with that. I apologize. Yeah. So by him running the rail route, what they ended up doing was having Aaron Jones come in that mesh behind it. And it was wide ass open. Wide ass open. And because it's that wide open, it just makes it an easy pitch and catch. So what they ended up doing was taking a simple concept that everybody runs. Everybody runs mesh rail. There isn't a single offense that doesn't have it in their playbook, except for maybe the triple. And if you talk to people who love the triple, mesh is not honorable football. But it's very effective, which is why so many offenses will run it. But he took it and put Jefferson in the backfield to create an easier matchup for Jones. Because that shallow defender is going to follow Jefferson. The deep defender is going to follow Jefferson. So guess what's open? That window to toss it to Jones. It's just so much of football is just making things easy. And if you make an easy button for your quarterback, it makes things so much easier for everything else. And I think having that is really important. And that's why one of the things that's really tough about the quarterback position, Dave, and we're seeing so many young quarterbacks struggle. You got to have good coaching. You need it. It's a must. That's why we're seeing so many young quarterbacks fail. And if you see that many young quarterbacks fail, you have to ask yourself why. Why are they failing? Is it because they stink? Well, Darnold failed, per se, before he got here. Does he stink? He's incredibly talented. It's all about coaching. It's all about surroundings. And the Vikings have an elite one in both areas. If it weren't for Matt LaFleur and what he did with Malik Willis, which I'm going to victory lap that at some point because, hey, I said, hey, you know what? He's in a bad situation. They don't want him. Packers traded a 7th-round pick for him. They made Malik Willis look like a really good starting quarterback for 2 weeks. First week was, hey, we're not going to have you throw a lot, but we're going to have you throw a little bit because you're still learning the offense. You've only been here 2 weeks. Week 3, they kind of let him loose and let him throw some like timing, anticipation, like dig routes. And he was hitting them. He was playing well. Like those are your 2 coaches of your candidates, and they're facing off next weekend. Pretty impressive, Dave. Pretty impressive to have arguably the 2 best head coaches right now going out there on Sunday on the same field.
It will be interesting. And there was one statement that came out this weekend that you can have a great quarterback, but what's probably most important is that you have an elite coach. That's where you're going to get the most out of a great or a mediocre quarterback than you will if you have a great quarterback and a horrible coach. Then that quarterback most likely won't be great. Ask Aaron Rodgers in New York City right now. But we'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. Those little things matter. Little things matter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we have them in droves. I think that's another one of the reasons why the Minnesota Vikings are in such a great spot and why you can argue that they are the best team in the National Football League. The other main reason is still on the coaching staff. His name is Brian Flores. And I'm going to combine Brian Flores with Kwesi adofo-mensah because their tag team, Dave, to get this defense has been so pivotal to everything that the Vikings are doing. It's truly remarkable how successful that this has been.
I think I thought I saw Kevin O'Connell said he had a sit down with Brian Flores over the summer and a heart-to-heart talk with the two of them on how they want to run the offense and the defense. And they came to an agreement. And they've been like attached at the hip ever since with their game plans and how they want to work. And it's working wonderfully. I didn't see that last year. I'm seeing it this year. And it seems to be whatever differences, because there was times last year where you didn't see them communicate a whole lot. This year, that's not the case. They're constantly talking to each other on how, well, if you do this and we do this and we do this and they'll do this and all this sort of stuff, and it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And you want that relationship to grow even more and blossom, and that Brian Flores doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and I think one of the really big things when we're having the whole conversation about the defense and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and why I think he gets a lot of credit, one of the big things that the detractors about Kwesi say is, oh, Kwesi's not making these decisions. He's letting like Brian Flores. All these are Brian Flores guys. Yeah, that's his job, buddy. His job is to hire people in place, and he manages the people. He makes final decisions. He decides, you know what? We're going to pay this guy X amount of money because we believe that he can do this. But he empowers these guys to give him the right information to make these decisions. And then he makes the final call. It's not that Brian Flores is going over Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's head and saying, hey, I'm going to sign this guy. That's how you get the triangle of authority bullshit with Brad Childress cutting Randy Moss in 2010.
Yeah. I got you.
This is the toy of doom.
Anthony called for a Vikings 10-plus win season. Now he's going to have to revise that prediction. Well, Anthony, we're waiting.
I don't think you're going to have to revise it all. I still think that's pretty good. But Kwesi making all these decisions is really important. It's important that he has people that he trusts to help give him the proper information, who he put in place. That's key here. And why the 2022 draft wasn't as successful as it could have been, they weren't his guys. They weren't his systems. And he learned from what happened in that draft. I think that's really important to understand. Because if that would have happened in 23 again, you're like, okay, what are we doing? Sure, the 2 5th-round picks and the 7th-round pick haven't worked out. Okay, whatever. They're 5th and 7th-round picks. That happens all the time. But he had on the 1st-round pick, looked to have hit on the 3rd-round pick, and the 4th-round pick has been solid. Like, I think people are holding him to too high of a standard because he's different, which that's fine. That's fine. But you also have to give him credit in the way he handled free agency. It's paying major dividends. This team is great because of the free agents that they brought in. The Andrew Van Ginkels, the Jonathan Grenards, who I still think is a better fit for this team than Daniil Hunter. Shaq Griffin, who everybody whined about. Oh, we just lost a 3rd-round comp pick for Shaq Griffin. 1, we were probably never getting that pick. 2, it was probably a 7th anyways, the way everything's going to end up shaping out. 3, he's played really well. I'll take a really good player or a guy who's playing well over a 7th-round comp pick. That's just facts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Stephon Gilmore signing, awesome. Fabian Moreau has only played in 1 game so far, but he's a really good depth piece because he's a solid player. Like Dave, all these things matter. All these things factor in. Kwesi has done a tremendous job at helping build the roster. And then Brian Flores is taking these players, giving them a PhD in I'm going to call it chaos theory, that defense. You know what? Maybe that's what we're going to call the defense. Chaos theory.
Well, that's how he's playing it. It's to mess with opposing quarterbacks' heads. And boy, is it doing that.
And honestly, it's the illusion of complexity. And I think that term, which we heard from Kevin O'Connell early on, is what we're seeing. Because it looks so chaotic and so crazy. But the players are like, they simplified it quite a bit to make it more effective for us, because that level of communication that they have. Watch them pre-snap. Watch them talk to each other. Watch them communicate. Watch how they're figuring things out on the fly and then modifying the defense. That kind of stuff is special, guys. You don't have that kind of thing a lot. Oftentimes it takes years to develop, and this is year 2. Like those Tampa 2 defenses with Tony Dungy, the ones with John Lynch, Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, Warren Sapp, Booger McFarland, Simeon Rice. Those guys played together for years. Like, it's hard to get that kind of continuity. But when you have it, oh man, is it great. It rocks. You can do a lot of different things. And the Vikings are starting to develop that with less time. And it's great. It's honestly the biggest part of why this team has been successful, because you take a look at the offense, you take a look at the defense. It's that continuity on defense and the communication. They would have won if the Vikings had just averaged 20 points a game. The Vikings offense. They probably are still 3-0. But the offense has more than pulled their weight. It's a combination of everything. And I'm kind of derailing my own thought, but I think the defense has been so pivotal to the success of this team so far. And it's not to take away from the offense, but the defense is why we're here. The key is going to be to hold things down. How is the defense going to continue this? We have 3 weeks of film on them. What are people going to be able to figure out and adapt and attack? I think we're going to see a lot of potential adapt and attack strategies against the Green Bay Packers this upcoming week. And let's also be real, Dave. The Packers are a very, 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 very well-coached team. Mm-hmm. This is a team that does an exceptional job in attacking. They do an exceptional job in understanding what they're good at and what you're bad at and hitting those. And that's why it feels like once a year, Matt LaFleur just lambastes us. He's that good of a coach. Mm-hmm. It's nothing against O'Connell, nothing against Flores. Sometimes you just get beat. The Vikings have gotten that from Matt LaFleur. So we're going to see how that kind of impacts. Thank you, Roman. We appreciate that. I want to see more from this team. I want to see them continue to grow, continue to develop, continue to take things to a different level. But right now, the overarching point, Dave, I think this is the second best team in the National Football League. I don't think they're number 1. I think there's an argument for number 1. But the Kansas City Chiefs are very battle tested at this point, and they're 3-0. They're not winning games fluky. They are winning games at the end with their style of play. Now, they much prefer to win by 2 scores. But if the Vikings have to play the Chiefs in the playoffs, which would only be the Super Bowl, they're going to be ready. They're going to be 100% battle tested. And I think they're still the best team in football. Even if, hey, maybe some of their metrics aren't great. I mean, they're still 5th in total offense with 75 points, scoring offense, I mean. Like, the Vikings in total offense, Dave, they're 11th, 989 yards, which is kind of wild.
Well, especially considering, what was it? We had 60 offensive snaps this week, and every week the snap counts have been low. First week, I don't even think we hit 60, and that's unusual. Normally, you're getting a lot more, 65 to 70 snaps a game.
Yeah, absolutely. The other element of this team that I think has been really good is the special teams. Kicking. Will Reichard's made his first 15 kicks. Punting. Ryan Wright, as I think is 50-some% of his punts inside the 20, ranked good enough for 7th on the year so far. Alec Lewis of The Athletic kind of shared that stat the other day. The return game has been good. The coverage game has also been good. I like that. I like those things. I like seeing that kind of development and growth. I want to see more of it. I want to see how they continue to evolve and develop. But it looks good so far, Dave. It all looks good so far.
And hopefully Odin blesses the rest of the team with health. There was a question on when do we expect TJ Hockenson back? I would say probably after the bye week.
Week 7 is the target date. That would be the Detroit Lions right after the bye. And then I would consider waiting until week 8, which is going to be the Thursday night game with the Rams. So it's a 4-day
so he doesn't have a 4-day turnaround for recovery?
4-day turnaround. That's the word I was looking for. My brain farted completely. But it might be a little too much to ask him to play and then play a second game 4 days later. So I wonder if they're going to shoot for that Thursday night game and then give him 10 days to kind of see how his knee reacts to playing in a full game. So I'm curious if that's the strategy. I wonder if they'll have him on a pitch count in both games. I wonder what they're going to end up doing. But you know what? They're not going to be in a desperate state where they desperately need to win football games because they're already 3-0. And at this rate, it would not shock me if they're going to the bye week 5-0. And if they go in 5-0, oh, buddy, we're going to get some Super Bowl hopium in this town, and it's going to be going to be real contagious.
The positive shotgun, as a Norse code says, is getting loaded already, and it's going to fire if we go 5-0.
Yep.
It'll probably fire if we destroy Green Bay this weekend. It's expected to go off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about this weekend. I'm excited about kind of what we've seen from this team, how we've seen them grow, and all of it's sustainable. It doesn't feel fluky. It feels real. And it's because of how good this coaching staff is. This coaching staff has this team playing incredibly well because they're incredibly coached. There's so many little things that kind of compile. I really believe in this team. I believe that they can take a step forward. I believe that they can do a lot of things to really take the next step and be a great team. We all figured 2025 was going to be the year. Strap in. It looks like 2024 is that year. Now, we're still working on a smaller sample size, so things could change next week. I don't expect it to. I didn't think that we would beat the 49ers. I thought we'd be really competitive and lose a close one. I was wrong. I thought we would beat the Texans in a close one after that 49ers game. I was wrong. We smoked them. Against the Packers, I'm not really sure what to think because I also don't know who we're going to face at quarterback. They want Jordan Love to play, but let's be real. I don't think he's going to. I think they're going to play it more cautious than anything. They won 2 games with Malik Willis. They're not in a desperate spot where they're like 0-3 and like, oh, they need him back so badly. You have to be careful of re-injury with something like a high ankle sprain. So it wouldn't shock me if they hold him out. But Malik Willis has played so well. Does it matter? Knee. That's right. It's an MCL. Yeah, you still have to worry about re-injury with an MCL.
Oh yeah.
So
now
I wouldn't shock me if they leave him out.
KOC said today they're preparing for both.
Oh, of course. What else are you going to do?
But I agree with you. LaFleur may keep him out, or he may. We don't know. We'll find out.
He's going to start practicing on a limited basis this week, but
nobody
really knows. He didn't practice last week.
Yeah, he did. I saw film of it.
Are you talking about practice, or are you talking about pregame because he did pregame warmups.
Now, I'm talking practice as in doing drills, not 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. Saw a clip of it last week.
Oh, because they showed clips of him running drills in before the game on Sunday, but I don't remember seeing any before then. That's why I asked.
I saw him like Thursday. But anyways, no biggie. We'll find out whether he's there or not. If he's there, we beat him too. Actually, if he's there, that may be a benefit for us because I don't think he's going to be 100% mentally ready to play the game because he's going to have a question in his mind, lingering in his mind. What happens if I step wrong and my knee goes?
Yep. Absolutely. They got to be careful. You don't want to mess with knees, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. His game is mobility. If this was Phillip Rivers, he's probably back because that's not his game. His game isn't moving. His game is really
throwing. Kirk Cousins is.
Yep. And you can kind of get away with not having a great MCL, but you really can't do that when you're as mobile as Jordan Love. It takes away a lot of what makes him great. So we're going to find out. We're going to see what the Vikings end up doing. We're going to see how they end up handling a lot of these situations. Look, get excited. Enjoy the fact that the Vikings are 3-0. Enjoy the fact that they are in a great spot.
They have a 55-point differential after 3 weeks.
Yeah. Pretty damn good. I believe that's first in the NFL. The only team I think might be there now is the Seahawks.
I'd have to bring it up. But it's amazing. And if you listen to Purple Daily, Mackey talked about some stats of teams that start 3-0 and have more than a 50-point differential. Quarter of them reach the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I heard that earlier today.
There's only been like 32 that fall into that category, and like 8 of them have reached the Super Bowl. Knock on wood. That happens with our team. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm trying to see.
And it's way different than last season. And we're on the plus side on turnovers. Gotta love that. As Brian says, depth is amazing so far. Guys have been rotated in, whether they needed to or not. Like this weekend when Darisaw got cramps or O'Neal went down briefly, Quisenberry came in and just rocked it. You have that depth. You have depth on the defense that gets rotated in and out to keep those guys fresh. It's a very, very good thing. And we haven't seen that in a long time.
No, we haven't. Be excited, guys. And we're going to be back on Wednesday talking Green Bay Packers, talking about kind of the keys to victory. I'm going to be watching the film tonight during Monday Night Football to kind of just get a better sense. Starting with the offense, I've already gotten through the first 2 touchdowns. Going to kind of look at everything else. I'm really excited to look at the running game because they used a lot of power game elements. They spammed duo a lot, and they beat the piss out of the Texans up front.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll be able to do that against the Green Bay Packers. Kenny Clark is really, really good, but we'll find out. And I think that's the beauty of football. We think we know, and then we watch, and then we find out we really don't know anything. And I think that's pretty cool. But
that may be an answer for Kenny Clark. And what duo is your interior guys are double teaming the interior defensive tackles.
And you always run front side to the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
That's and then there's some specific footwork and angles that you take with duo that aren't like with inside zone, but I'm just gonna whip your butt kind of running, and that's a lot of fun. That's real big boy football.
Yeah, the offensive linemen can be aggressive because they're being offensive. They're not reacting. They're the ones doing the hurt.
Yep. And we're going to have a lot more on Wednesday because there's going to be a lot that we can get from the film. Until then, thank you for what?
That's just Wednesday. You forgot the rest of the week.
I'll let you do that. My brain is fried. I'm going to forget something.
Tuesday, we're going to record Scolders and Spice. It should be out Tuesday night, hopefully. Sal and I will record it in the morning. I don't know who our guest is yet for either day of the week. Thursday, she'll record as well. And Who Will Be King, your NFC North Roundup show, has also been moved to Thursday this week. It is being hosted by yours truly of Vikings First and SKOL, so you can catch it here live. Pay from the Chicago Bears and the Bear Claw podcast asked for an extra day. I think he's sort of still crying over his quarterback. Caleb Williams did move into the lead on the rookie quarterbacks with the most touchdowns this season so far. He did that this week. He got through two of them. And your very own J.J. McCarthy, who's been on IR for forever, it still remains in second with 0. Everybody else has 0.
Wild.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Thankfully, Odie seems to be okay. He's just more annoyed than anything. So thank you, Dr. Proto. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. Hit like on this video. We'd appreciate it. All right, hold on. Daniel, I needed more information to really, truly believe in this team. I got the information, so I evolved my opinion. And you know what? If they start to absolutely suck eggs, I'm going to evolve my opinion again. Because you know what? That's what good analysts is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Mary,
until then,
we have shows today, obviously, with the Real Forno. Tomorrow with Sal. Wednesday with the Real Forno again. Thursday with Sal and the NFC North show. And there's a few extra podcasts probably thrown in there, like this morning on the Vikings Daily Opener as we looked at the Sam Darnold reclamation project after week 3. It's going pretty good.
It's going pretty good. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, everyone.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!